So today we'll talk about week 4, day 6 slide deck. And we want our students to recognize that we're adding another grad value, that is loving, to our intellectually distinguished. They're going to go ahead and sit with our 11 o'clock partners. They're going to complete a survey. That's just for us to check in, see how they're doing as they are more than halfway done. And then also we want to ask this question: what does this quote have to do with being intellectually distinguished and loving? So that's the stories create community, enable us to see through the eyes of other people, and open us to the claims of others. We really want students to start to notice that our scholastic selves can also be compassionate and loving, and there is that intersection, and that's really what it means to be Loyola. And we see that in Ignatian education. We see people that are of really pure hearts and minds that are also intellectually distinguished, right? They're able to be, usually Jesuits are very well spoken. They're known to be teachers because they can handle that. So we want our students to start to make that connection that at Loyola, we care about who they are and we care about their academic selves and their scholasticism, but we really, really value their character, their moral character. So once you get into that, you can go ahead and then the 11 o'clock partners without their computers, at this point, they should be done with their survey, about 10 minutes. You're gonna say, go ahead, laptop's 45 degrees or shut. Let's do these Teaser Tuesdays. The answers are there for you, and see if between the 11 o'clock partners, they can figure it out. Then we'll go over the agenda. We're gonna pray an Ignatian Examen, which is a new prayer for us. And we're also going to discuss what a faith crest is, and you're going to do a presentation. So once they've done that, we're going to go ahead and do this exam. And I want you to notice the script is here for you, and the students will have something that's going to help guide them. The timing of this, we said 8 minutes. I think it's important to describe what an examen is, and that we pray it at Advent and Lent. And it really is the prayer where we are examining our actions, our conscience, and our emotions. And that these are introspective prompts, meaning that this is not something you say out loud. This is something you pray in your own mind. So settle the class, get it quiet. Depending on who you are, you can play some light music, classical music, or you can keep it silent. Have the students reflect over the last 3 weeks of CY1 and ask them a question: how was God present in that work? Give it time, project to the future as you know more, and you can read this verbatim. As you know more about Loyola, the expectations and the tools we use, what do you anticipate to be your blind spot or your challenge? What do you consider to be the mountain you'll have to climb, the cross you'll need to bear? And then how will you respond to God's presence then? And then we want to consider the present. Where are you headed with this newfound information that you've earned? How do you feel about yourself, the school, and the world? How are you being called to respond, right? So give them that opportunity to reflect, approximately 2 to 3 minutes each prompt. Once we've done that, at 11 o'clock partners have the students discuss what they wrote about intellectually distinguished and loving and that intersection with the quote. Ask some groups to answer and respond, and remind them of why stories matter, and that today is a day of stories. In fact, today you're going to be learning the Loyola story and the story of Jesuit schools. So with that, we're going to talk about a faith crest. So here we are looking at Loyola, and what does Loyola represent to you? And what stories have you heard about it from alums, faculty? So this slide really is another reflective piece. Like, what do you know about Loyola up to this point? What have people told you about? And this is usually the fun part. People like to ask, like to share how they are connected to Loyola or not. And then we're going to talk about this idea of whatever representation means, and why stories, whether they're true or not, what that does for a student that's maybe considering enrolling in Loyola. And we want to talk about how symbols are transcendent and defy logic, meaning that when I see a symbol, I automatically can figure out what it represents without there being words. They tend to be relevant, something that, like, for example, Apple computers have an apple as their icon. It makes sense to me because Apple physically the picture, the icon, as well as the brand itself. And it's powerful, meaning it's pervasive. We see it everywhere and we're able to attach meaning to it. So we're going to do a little quiz. Anyone know what this is? Target, Chanel, McDonald's. And they're going to go through the whole thing until they get to Loyola. And we can even ask them what they think this represents. What do they think this means? So again, universally recognized, the viewer has to be able to connect with the story. And as the class of 2026, they are the new symbols, the newest of this Loyola story. So what we're going to have the students do is jot down a few notes answering the following. What do coat of arms or crest or shields represent? What do you notice about this particular shield and what does it represent? So we're going to have them do that, maybe a couple minutes, just writing down what they think is a coat of arms. Ask people to share what they know and confirm or redirect based off of the responses. Tell them that the fun fact is that the Faith Crest is actually on Rupert Hall. And depending where you are located, you can tell them where that is. It's right next to Hayden Circle. It's on the east side of campus. And then let's do it. I love going over the meaning of the crest. So what do you all think the L is? Hopefully they figured out what it means. Loyola, and it's representing St. Ignatius' lineage. Then what do you think the wolves and cauldron represent? And I want students to understand that these, the red and the gold, or the crimson and the gold, are the colors of the Onaz family. We also want them to recognize that we can figure out a little bit why there are wolves specifically. And so basically, St. Ignatius' family was so generous that often in the Basque Country that people said that they were even able to feed the wolves as well as the people that were going through famine. So we want to show that this is like a symbol of generosity. You'll notice I have the crest in my background too, because this is my favorite thing to use for CY1 is this crest, because it's a major anchor for our students. And then we want to go and say, okay, let's see if you guys all know a little bit of Spanish. What's the word for wolf, which is lobo? And what's the word for cauldron or pot, which is olla? And together we get loboya. Sounds like sneezing it. Thank you. Sounds a lot like Loyola. So it has that kind of connection to it. Also, then we'll ask, what do you think the blue and the white striped field? Those are our school colors. So this is our crest, and this represents our heritage as a school. You'll notice there are animations that go along with explanations. And then we're going to say, okay, did you know that other Jesuit schools have coat of arms and crests? What do you notice? What are some similarities and differences? And you can say like the field, the Lavoyas. There are, like these two crests have a very similar shape. These ones have years that they were founded. So again, we want them to start to kind of connect and figure out how our crests are similar or different. This is where I really need to be clear with you. If I go to this, you cannot share this slide deck with them. You need to make a copy. And then once you make a copy, you need to make it editable for all of your students. So when we do that, you're gonna go to share, you're gonna make a copy, and then you're eventually gonna change this to editor, right? Really important that you don't do that with the template, because the template is for everybody, all right? So once you have done that, you're going to talk to the students about, well, I want you to do a little bit of research, some research on some faith crests in our Jesuit network. We are actually part of a bunch of Jesuit schools, and they too have faith crests. So in a quad, so we're going to do 2 11 o'clock partner groups, and they can pick their quads. They're going to have 15 minutes, and they need to present on their faith crest. And what's great about it is they don't need to go anywhere except for the slides themselves. So they're going to visit these websites, which are provided for them, right? They can also use Google. They're going to give us a snapshot of the school. Where's it located? What's its demographics? Anything that's important about their mission. They're going to describe what they see in the crest and its symbol. They're going to put a picture of the crest here. And more importantly, they're going to compare and contrast how it's similar to Loyola's faith crest. And so each quad group, you're going to notice that we've got 6, because that means if you have a class of 24, you'll be able to make it work. My classes that are bigger, you can have groups of 5 clearly, or 6 even. So again, this is just for them, and each quad group gets its own slide, and you'll notice that there are different links depending on what school it is. I will say typically, historically, those students that get Brophy, I think I changed it, so we're good. So again, this is one of those things where give the students time to research, let them struggle a little bit. They tend to get like, I can't find anything. So say, okay, well, where do you think you could find this information? Most of the time it's in the summary or the main section of the school. Sometimes they can use the search feature so we want them to practice that. After 15 minutes, the students are going to present, tell them they have a time limit of 2 minutes, and we really want to hold them to that time limit. Once the presentations are over, applaud them for what they've done. They did a great job, blah, blah, blah. And if they didn't do a great job, let them know. You know what? This technically would not suffice in my class as a presentation, and here's why. Again, we want this to be a learning moment for students, whether they did well or did not do well. If you have time, you can give them extra credit, and you can put this as an extra credit point on their presentations. But other than Rupert Hall, where else can you spot the crest? So this is sort of a scavenger hunt. And if you want to get that extra credit, take a selfie with it or other symbols that you think are relevant to Loyola. So that is day 4. Just make sure you grade the presentations using the rubric on Canvas.